The Drath Hegemony attacked the world at 0600 local time. They came with 40 warships, destroyers, cruisers, 2 dreadnoughts. They dropped out of fold space above the planet's single orbital station and fired. The station died in 30 seconds. Its guns were small. The shields were thin. Its crew of 200 had time to send one distress signal before the hull cracked and the air went gone. Then the bombardment started. Not on cities. On the military installations, the garrison barracks, the weapons depots, the communication towers. The Drath were precise, professional. They had done this before. 40 systems, 20 species, 1,000 years of practice. They knew how to take a world without breaking it, how to remove the teeth without killing the body, how to make the population understand quickly and completely that resistance was pointless. The garrison fought. 3,000 soldiers. They held for 4 hours. Then the Drath landed. 10,000 troops. Armored. Supported. Overwhelming. The garrison broke. Not from cowardice. From mathematics. 3,000 against 10,000. The numbers did not care about courage. By noon, the capital city was occupied. The government buildings were seized. The streets were patrolled. The population was confined to their homes. The Drath flag was raised above the central administration building. The broadcast went out. This is General Vaughn, Drath Hegemony Expeditionary Force. The human colony designated Sol 3 has been secured. All military resistance has ended. The population is under protective custody. The hegemony claims this world by right of strategic necessity. All human vessels in this sector are ordered to withdraw. This occupation is permanent. The galaxy watched. 400 species watched the broadcast. They saw the Drath flag. They saw the occupied streets. They saw the confined population. They saw General Vaughn standing in front of the administration building, silver-scaled, 4-eyed, proud. They saw a standard occupation, a standard conquest, a standard territorial acquisition, the kind that happened every few years, the kind that was resolved through negotiation, through sanctions, through border adjustments, through the slow, grinding machinery of interstellar politics. They expected the humans to respond, to send a fleet, to issue a statement, to demand a meeting, to file a complaint with the Galactic Council, to do the things that species did when their territory was taken. The normal things, the expected things, the things that fit into the machinery. The humans did none of those things. For 3 days Earth said nothing. No fleet mobilized. No statement was issued. No complaint was filed. No meeting was requested. No sanction was proposed. Nothing. Just silence. 3 days of silence from a species that had just lost a world. 3 days of nothing. On the 4th day, a shuttle arrived. The shuttle was small, civilian, unmarked, carried no military identification, no weapons, no escort. It requested landing clearance at the Drath Occupation Command Center. The request was granted. General Vaughn was curious. He expected a negotiator, a trade representative, a diplomatic attaché, someone with a briefcase full of concessions, someone who would offer resources, territory, credits, anything to end the occupation, someone who would sit at the table and negotiate the terms of surrender. The shuttle landed. The ramp lowered. One person walked out. He was old, 67, maybe 68, thin, gray-haired. He wore a dark suit, pressed, clean, simple, no insignia, no uniform, no military decoration, just a suit. The kind of suit a man wears to a funeral. The kind of suit that says, I am here for something solemn. I am here to mark an ending. I am here because someone is dead and I need to stand in the right place and say the right words. He carried no briefcase, no data pad, no documents, no credentials, just his hands, empty, at his sides. He walked across the landing pad. His shoes clicked on the metal. Slow, steady, unhurried. The walk of a man who was not afraid. Not because he was brave, because he was past the point where fear mattered. past the point where anything mattered except the thing he had come to say. General Vaughn met him at the command center entrance. 2 aides flanked the general. For armed guards, the full military reception, the show of force, the reminder that this was occupied territory, that the Drath were in charge, that the human was a guest in someone else's house. The old man did not look at the guards, did not look at the aides, did not look at the flag above the building. He looked at General Vaughn. His eyes were dark, wet, not crying, not yet, but wet, the way eyes get when the tears have already fallen, somewhere private, where no one could see. And now there is nothing left but the damp, the residue, the ache behind the sockets that does not go away. General Vaughn, the old man said. His voice was quiet, steady, the voice of a man who had rehearsed this moment. Not the words, the weight of them, the way they would land, the way they would sit in the air afterward. My name is Samuel Oay. I am here on behalf of the United Earth Directorate. I am here to speak, and then I am here to leave, and then I am here to let you sit with what I say. For a very long time, General Vaughn gestured inside. Please, we can discuss terms. We can negotiate. We can find a resolution that... I am not here to negotiate, Samuel said. He did not raise his voice, did not harden it, did not make it sharp or cold or threatening. He simply stated it, flat, final, the way you state a fact, the way you state that the sky is gray, that the ground is wet, that someone is dead. I am here to say something, and then I am leaving, and you will not respond, because there is nothing to respond to. There is only the thing I am going to say, and the silence after it, and the years you will spend in that silence. He walked inside. General Vaughn followed. The aides followed. The guards stayed outside. The door closed. The room was small. A briefing table. A tactical display. Maps of the occupied world. Troop positions. Patrol routes. Supply lines. The machinery of conquest laid out in clean, efficient detail. General Vaughn's work. His pride. His 1,000-year tradition made visible. Samuel Oay did not sit. He stood at the far end of the table. He looked at the maps, at the troop positions, at the patrol routes drawn through the streets, through the parks, through the residential districts, through the places where people lived and walked and breathed and raised their children and buried their dead. He looked at them for a long time. His hands were at his sides. His jaw was tight. His eyes moved across the maps, across the streets, across the names, and something in his face shifted. Not anger, not rage, something older, something deeper, something that had been building for 3 days, for 4 days, for the entire time between the first orbital shot and this moment. The slow, patient, grinding accumulation of grief, layer by layer, hour by hour, until it was too heavy to carry alone, until it had to be set down. In this room, in front of this man, in front of the galaxy. You invaded our home, Samuel said. 6 words. Quiet, flat, final, not shouted, not spat, not thrown, placed, like a stone on a table, like a name on a headstone, like a period at the end of a sentence that should never have been written. General Vaughn opened his mouth. The colony of Sol 3 is now under hegemony jurisdiction. We are prepared to discuss compensation. We are prepared to negotiate the terms of. It is not a colony. Samuel's voice did not change, did not rise, did not sharpen. Simply was. The way a wall is, the way the ground is, the way a fact is, unmovable, undeniable, absolute. It is not a colony, he said again. It is not a territory. It is not a possession. It is not a bargaining chip. It is not a strategic asset. It is not a line on a map that you can redraw and renegotiate and trade for something else. He looked at General Vaughn, his dark, wet eyes, his steady, quiet, funeral face. It is Earth. The room went still. General Vaughn's 4 eyes blinked. His aides exchanged a glance. The tactical display hummed. The maps glowed. The patrol routes pulsed. Earth, Samuel said. The homeworld, the origin, the place where our species began. The place where the first human stood up and looked at the sky and wondered. The place where the first word was spoken. The first fire was lit. The first song was sung. The first child was named. The first dead was buried. The first promise was made. The first story was told. He paused. He breathed. His hands trembled slightly. He did not hide the trembling. He let it be seen. Let it be witnessed. Let the galaxy see that his hands shook. That his voice was steady but his body was not. That the grief was real. That the weight was real. That the thing he was carrying was too heavy for one person and had always been too heavy for one person. It is where our mothers are buried, he said. All of them. Every mother. Every grandmother. Every great-grandmother. Every woman who ever gave birth to a human child. They are there. In the ground. In the soil. In the dirt. Under the streets you are patrolling. Under the buildings you are occupying. Under the flag you raised. You are standing on their graves, General. You are walking your soldiers through our graveyards. Through the places where we go to remember. Where we go to grieve. Where we go to lay flowers and say names and whisper to people who cannot hear us anymore. And you are there. With your boots. With your guns. With your flag. Standing on our dead. General Vaughn did not speak. His 4 eyes were fixed on Samuel Oay. His scales were their normal silver. But his hands, resting on the table, had gone very still. The stillness of a man who has just been told something he cannot process, cannot categorize, cannot file into the neat, efficient machinery of 1,000 years of conquest. Your intelligence designated its soul 3, Samuel said. Agricultural colony, minor settlement, strategic value low. That is what your files say. That is what your analysts concluded. That is what your commanders briefed you on. He paused. Your intelligence was wrong. The designation was wrong. The classification was wrong. It is not Sol 3. It is not a colony. It is not a settlement. It is not minor. It is not strategic. It is not low value. It is the one place, the only place, the place that cannot be replaced, cannot be rebuilt, cannot be negotiated, cannot be traded, cannot be compensated, cannot be taken, because it is not a thing that can be taken. It is a thing that is, the way a mother is, the way a name is, the way a first breath is, it simply is, and it was ours, and it will always be ours, and you touched it, and you will never be able to untouch it. He stopped. He looked at General Vaughn. He looked at the maps. He looked at the patrol routes. He looked at the flag on the tactical display. The Drath flag, flying over Earth, over the graves, over the parks, over the places where children learned to walk and old people sat in the sun and lovers held hands and strangers nodded and life happened. Small, ordinary, sacred. You have 6 words from me, Samuel said. You invaded our home. That is all. I am not going to threaten you. I am not going to demand your withdrawal. I am not going to propose sanctions or file complaints or request meetings. I am not going to give you something to negotiate, something to counter, something to argue with. I am going to give you 6 words. And then I am going to leave. And you are going to sit with them. And the galaxy is going to sit with them. And the weight of them is going to grow. Every day, every year, every decade, until it is too heavy to carry. Until the occupation becomes unbearable. Not because of a fleet. Not because of a weapon. Not because of a sanction. Because of the weight. The weight of knowing what you touched. What you walked on. What you stood on. What you raised your flag over. The graves. The mothers. The first fire. The first word. The first breath. The sacred ground. And you will carry that weight. And it will not get lighter. It will get heavier. And one day it will be too heavy. And you will leave. Not because we made you. Because you could not carry it anymore. He turned. He walked to the door. He opened it. He paused. He did not look back. You will hear from us again, he said. Not today. Not this year. Maybe not this decade. But you will hear from us. And when you do, you will remember this moment, this room, these 6 words. And you will know that the silence between then and now was not emptiness. It was patience. And humans are very, very patient. He walked out. The door closed. His shoes clicked on the metal. The shuttle lifted. The ramp retracted. The ship rose. And the sky swallowed it. And the silence remained. General Vaughn stood in the briefing room for a long time after Samuel Oay left. He did not move, did not speak, did not call his aides, did not check the tactical display, did not review the patrol routes. He stood at the table and looked at the maps, at the streets, at the names, at the places where the patrols walked. And he saw them differently now, not as strategic positions, not as occupation zones, not as lines on a chart, as places, as streets where someone had walked, where someone had lived, where someone had died, where someone was buried, where a mother's bones were in the ground under the boots of his soldiers. He pulled up the intelligence file. Sol 3, agricultural colony, minor settlement, strategic value low. He read it again. He read the analyst's notes, the classification criteria, the designation protocol. He read the part where the analyst wrote, no significant cultural or historical value. Standard agricultural output. Population, 8 billion. Recommend standard occupation protocol. 8 billion. The analyst had written 8 billion and called it a minor settlement. Had written 8 billion and classified it as low strategic value. Had written 8 billion and filed it under agricultural colony and moved on to the next item on the list. General Vaughn closed the file. He sat down. He put his head in his hands. His 4 eyes were dry. His scales were silver. His hands were steady. But something behind his ribs was shifting. Something he had not felt in 30 years of conquest. Something he did not have a name for. Something that tasted like the moment after a mistake. The moment when you realize the thing you did cannot be undone, cannot be fixed, cannot be negotiated away, cannot be compensated, cannot be traded for something else. The moment when the weight lands, and you know it will not lift. The galaxy watched the broadcast, the shuttle's arrival, the walk across the landing pad, the funeral suit, the empty hands, the 6 words, the departure. The galaxy watched it all. For 100 species, for 100 governments, for 100 populations. They watched an old man in a dark suit walk into an occupation command center and say 6 words and walk out. And they felt it, the weight, the grief, the terrible, quiet, absolute finality of it. Not rage, not fury, not the hot, loud, burnable anger of a species that wants to fight. The cold, deep, permanent grief of a species that has lost something sacred, and will never get it back, and will never forgive, and will never forget, and will carry it, forever, like a stone in the chest, like a name on the tongue, like a promise made to the dead that cannot be broken. The Vrelians watched, the Ketheri watched, the Tesserine watched, the Drath watched. 400 species watched an old man grieve. And 400 species understood in the watching that this was not a negotiation. This was not a dispute. This was not a conflict to be resolved. This was a wound. And wounds do not negotiate. Wounds do not resolve. Wounds heal. Slowly. Painfully. Over years. Over decades. Over generations. And the scar remains. And the scar remembers. And the scar aches when the weather changes. And the scar never goes away. The Drath Hegemony held the occupation for 11 months. Not because they wanted to, because they did not know how to leave, did not know how to undo it, did not know how to walk away from a world they had taken and say, we are sorry, we did not know, we will give it back. Because there was no protocol for that, no procedure, no precedent. 1,000 years of conquest had no clause for we made a mistake and we are sorry and we are giving it back. The machinery of empire did not include a reverse gear, did not include an apology, did not include the words we were wrong. And so the occupation continued, and the weight grew, and the patrols walked the streets, and the boots pressed the soil, and the flag flew over the graves, and the weight grew, and grew, and grew. On the 12th month, General Vaughn ordered the withdrawal. He did not broadcast it, did not make a speech, did not issue a statement. He ordered the troops to board their transports. He ordered the flag lowered. He ordered the ships powered up. He ordered the fleet to leave. And when his aides asked why, he said, "Because I cannot carry it anymore." And they understood. And they did not argue. And they left. The Drath fleet lifted from Earth on a Thursday morning. The transports rose. The dreadnoughts turned. The flag was folded. The streets were empty. The parks were quiet. The graves were undisturbed. The soil was still. The mothers were still there. In the ground. In the dirt. In the dark. Patient. Permanent. Sacred. The humans did not celebrate the withdrawal. Did not broadcast it. Did not issue a statement. Did not gloat. Did not grieve publicly. They simply went back to their lives. They walked the streets. They tended the gardens. They visited the graves. They laid flowers. They said names. They whispered to people who could not hear them. They lived. Small. Ordinary. Sacred. The way they had always lived. The way they would always live. On the one place. The only place. The place that could not be taken. Could not be traded. Could not be compensated. Could not be replaced. Samuel Oay watched the fleet leave from a hill outside the capital city. He stood alone, his hands in his pockets, his dark suit pressed, his gray hair catching the wind. He watched the ships rise. He watched them turn. He watched them shrink. He watched them disappear. And he breathed. And the breath was steady. And the hands did not tremble. And the eyes were dry. And the weight, for one brief moment, was lighter. Not gone. Never gone. But lighter. The way a stone is lighter after you set it down. The way a name is lighter after you say it aloud. The way a grief is lighter after someone else has heard it. He turned from the sky. He walked down the hill. He walked through the streets. He walked past the parks. Past the buildings. Past the places where the boots had been. Where the flag had flown. Where the soldiers had stood. And the places were just places again. Just streets. Just parks. Just buildings. Just soil. Just graves. Just home. Small. Ordinary. Sacred. He walked home. He made tea. He sat by the window. He watched the sunset. The sky turned gold. The shadows lengthened. The world was quiet. The world was whole. The world was his. And no one would take it again. Not because of a fleet. Not because of a weapon. Not because of a threat. Because of 6 words. Spoken in a small room. By an old man in a funeral suit. With empty hands and wet eyes and the absolute, unshakable, permanent certainty that home is sacred. And the sacred does not forgive. And the sacred does not forget. And the sacred does not let go. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not in 1,000 years. Not ever.